In 1162, a boy was born on the banks of the Onon River, holding a blood clot in his fist. Midwives called it an omen. His father named him Temüjin, which means ironsmith. He grew up to be something the world had no name for. By the time he died in 1227, Temüjin, by then called Genghis Khan, had assembled an empire stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. 24 million square kilometers, more than China, Russia, Europe, and India combined. The largest contiguous empire in the history of the world. He built it from here, from this steppe, from this silence. 2 people live here for every square kilometer. The capital sits at 1,580 meters above sea level and is the coldest capital city on Earth. % of the population still moves seasonally, following grass. The conditions that produced the empire have not changed. Only the empire is gone. The province of Khenti begins where Ulaanbaatar ends and does not stop for 80,000 square kilometers. Rolling steppe cuts north toward Russia, broken by occasional stands of birch. There are no landmarks in the Western sense, no monuments to guide the eye. The land itself is the monument. Somewhere in this province, in the valley of the Onon River, Temüjin was reportedly born in 1162. The birth site is unmarked. The Mongol tradition of concealing burial sites extended to birthplaces as well. The sacred does not require a signpost. Burkhan Khaldun, the mountain visible on the northeastern skyline, is where Genghis Khan is said to have prayed before battles and directed that he be buried on its slopes. UNESCO designated it a World Heritage Site in 2015. The mountain, the river valley, and the surrounding sacred landscape are collectively called the Sacred Landscape of Burkhan Khaldun. The Onon flows east and north, 1,032 kilometers from Khenti to the Amur, widening as it crosses into Russia. In its upper reaches, the river is clear and cold, perhaps 40 meters wide, running through meadows that still sustain wild horses. The silence is not passive. It is active, a quality of the air above a land that has absorbed an improbable amount of history and returned no sound. It was reportedly along this river that Temüjin unified the 9 warring Mongolian tribes between 1185 and 1206. The political work happened here. The alliances, the betrayals, the slow accumulation of sworn followers. By 1206, at a great assembly on the Onon River, he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, universal ruler, and the Mongol Empire officially began. "54 kilometers east of Ulaanbaatar, a statue rises from the steppe on a scale that stops conversation. The Genghis Khan equestrian statue at Tsonjin Bulldog is 40 meters tall and made entirely of stainless steel, said to be the largest equestrian statue in the world. It faces east toward the Onon River, toward the birthplace. The building inside the statue's base contains a museum. Visitors take an elevator through the horse's chest to a viewing platform on the horse's head. From there, the steppe extends in every direction without interruption. The statue was completed in 2008. The choice of stainless steel was deliberate, a material that does not corrode, a monument that will not erode. Mongolia chose permanence over authenticity. The empire lasted roughly 162 years. The steel will outlast it. The capital organizes itself around the square that bears Damdin Sukbatar's name. In 1921, Sukbatar reportedly rode a horse across this ground and declared Mongolia's independence from China, the second declaration of a Mongolian state in some 700 years, the first having been Genghis Khan's in 1206. The Parliament building faces north, colonnaded and white. At its center, between the two flanking wings, Genghis Khan sits in bronze, flanked by Ogedei and Chagatai. The inscription reads, "I am the punishment of God." The city behind the square is a study in geological strata of political history. Soviet-era apartment blocks from the 1960s and 70s stand beside glass towers completed last year. On the slopes above both, the Gare districts rise. Reportedly, 60% of Ulaanbaatar's 1.58 million people live in traditional circular felt homes, connected to no mains water supply. Coal stoves heat each one. In winter, the valley fills with smog that exceeds Beijing's. The city that was built as a Soviet model of socialist order is heated, in its majority, by the same technology Genghis Khan's soldiers used. The monuments keep getting bigger. The land keeps getting quieter. The city that was once the center of the world occupies a flat plain southwest of the Kongai Mountains, and it offers almost nothing to the eye. A museum, a few foundation outlines, stone turtles, bilig, that once marked the city's cardinal points, crouching in the grass where they have crouched for 7 centuries. No wall, no gate, no tower. Karakoram was founded by Ogedei Khan in approximately 1235. At its peak, it reportedly received ambassadors from France, the papacy, Korea, China, and the Abbasid Caliphate. The Flemish monk William of Rubruck arrived in 1253 and left a detailed account. Streets organized by trade, temples for 4 religions, a great palace with a silver fountain engineered to dispense 4 varieties of drink at once. The city reportedly enclosed approximately 1.5 square kilometers of mixed Chinese, Persian, and Mongolian architecture. Its population may have reached 10,000, modest for a metropolis, vast for a steppe. The Ming dynasty invaded in 1380. Within decades, the city was abandoned. What the Ming did not burn, the Mongolian climate completed. Abtai Khan did not let the stones disappear. In 1586, he ordered the construction of Erdin-Zu Monastery, said to be the first Buddhist monastery in Mongolia, using stone quarried directly from Karakoram's ruins. The walls of the empire became the walls of a sanctuary. 108 white stupas ring the perimeter, spaced precisely. 108 is the sacred number in Tibetan Buddhism. The count of sins and the count of beads on a mala. The gilded roofs catch steppe light. The monastery survived what came after. In the 1930s, the Soviet-aligned Mongolian government executed approximately 17,000 Buddhist monks and destroyed over 700 monasteries across the country. Erdin-Zu was converted to a museum. Its monks were killed or imprisoned. After 1990, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, it was returned to active religious use. Monks pray here now, in a structure whose foundations were quarried from the capital of the Mongol Empire. The valley that holds Karakoram is not a coincidence. The Onon River has sustained every major nomadic empire across this steppe for over 2,000 years. The Xiongnu, the confederation that the Han dynasty spent generations trying to suppress, controlled this valley in the 3rd century BCE. The Uyghur Khaganate built their capital here in the 8th century CE. The Mongols came after them and built theirs in the same valley. The United Nations designated the Onon Valley a World Heritage Site in 2004. The designation reportedly covers 120 kilometers of river corridor and documents continuous settlement from the Paleolithic. It may be the single most continuously inhabited landscape in Central Asia. "20 kilometers upstream from the monastery, the Onon River drops 20 meters into a black basalt canyon. The basalt is the product of volcanic activity approximately 20,000 years ago. Lava flows that locked the ancient river channel into a harder course. The canyon walls close to 40 meters wide at the narrowest point. The water hits the base and fills the air with a sound that carries far across the plateau. The Onon is reportedly Mongolia's longest river, 1,124 kilometers from its source in the Kongai Mountains to its confluence with the Selenge. The waterfall is not labeled on most Western maps. At the age of 14, in 1648, a boy named Zanabazar climbed a forested ridge in the Kongai Mountains and declared that he would build his monastery there. He had been recognized as Mongolia's first Jebtsundamba Kutuktu, the highest Buddhist authority in the country, at age 4. He was also, by any measure, the greatest sculptor Mongolia has produced. His bronze Buddhas, cast in a style that fused Tibetan iconography with Mongolian sensibility, are now in the Zanabazar Museum of Fine Arts in Ulaanbaatar. The monastery at Tuvkun sits at reportedly 2,600 meters above sea level. The approach requires a 2-hour ascent through pine forest. Zanabazar used it as his personal retreat for creative work. The monastery is less a place of public worship than a studio built on a cliff. The Soviet purges of the 1930s destroyed it. The reconstruction, said to be completed in 1999, follows the original plan exactly. The stones of Karakoram did not disappear. They moved 40 kilometers and became a monastery. Mongolia's surface area is 1.56 million square kilometers. Roughly 1.3 million of those square kilometers are steppe, uninterrupted grassland that receives between 100 and 300 millimeters of rain per year, sustains an average of 1 to 2 trees per square kilometer, and carries wind speeds that regularly reach 60 to 80 kilometers per hour. From the air, the scale erases familiar proportion. The horizon is not a feature, it is the view. A single gare, visible at center ground, becomes the only point of reference, and it does not help. The gare proves only that the steppe is inhabited, not that it is bounded. 80 kilometers northeast of Ulaanbaatar, the steppe rises into something else. Terelj National Park occupies 293,000 hectares of forest steppe, where granite formations push through birch and larch. The elevation runs to 2,200 meters at its highest ridges. Yaks graze in the valley floors. The park was established formally in 1993, though nomadic families have camped in its river valleys for centuries. The terrain here makes the case that Mongolia is not simply flat. The Khenti mountain range runs through its heart, low enough to cross on horseback, but distinct enough to shelter ecosystems that could not survive on the open steppe. Over 250 plant species reportedly grow within the park's borders. The most photographed formation in Terelj rises at the park's eastern edge. A granite boulder sculpted by 60 million years of wind, frost, and thermal expansion into the unmistakable silhouette of a rearing turtle. The boulder is 15 meters tall. It is made of Cretaceous granite, rock that solidified underground approximately 100 million years ago and was exposed by the slow removal of the material above it. The Mongols had names for formations like this. Shamans considered them inhabited. Pilgrims still leave offerings at the base. The rock makes no effort to justify the attention. It simply exists in proportions that make the mind stop. 20 kilometers south of Terelj, on a different spur of the Khenti Range, Hustai National Park holds something that was lost and returned. The Taki, Przewalski's horse, went extinct in the wild in 1969. The last confirmed wild sighting occurred in China's Xinjiang province. By the 1980s, the only surviving population existed in European zoos, descendants of animals captured in the early 20th century. In 1992, 16 individuals were transported from the Dutch Przewalski's Horse Foundation and released at Hustai. Today, the park reportedly holds approximately 330 taki across 50,000 hectares. They have never been domesticated in recorded history. Their chromosome count differs from domestic horses, 66 versus 64. A genetic distinction that genomic studies suggest traces back at least several 100,000 years. On the ridge at dusk, their manes catch the last light. They are not performing wildness. They are simply wild. After dark, the steppe surrenders its largest asset. Mongolia's Bortle scale reading in rural areas sits at 1 to 2, among the lowest light pollution measurements available to human settlement. At 1,500 meters average elevation, the atmosphere offers less interference. The Milky Way is not a faint smear here. It is structural, an arch of approximately 200 billion stars visible from horizon to horizon, detailed enough to navigate by. A single ger sits below it. The firelight in the window is the only competing light source for 40 kilometers in every direction. The horse that built the empire still runs here. The empire is gone. The horse remained. The Gobi does not fit the image. It is the fifth largest desert in the world, 1.3 million square kilometers stretching from southern Mongolia into northern China. But only 5% of it is sand. The rest is gravel, rock, and compressed clay in colors ranging from ochre to gray to the deep rust of oxidized iron. In summer, the surface temperature reaches 45 degrees Celsius. In winter, the same ground drops to -40. The annual rainfall averages 50 to 200 millimeters, less than London receives in a single month. It is not a soft place. The emptiness here is structural. The Gobi sits in the rain shadow of the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau, which block the moisture of the Indian monsoon before it can reach Central Asia. This is a desert made by mountains that are thousands of kilometers away. At the desert's northwestern edge, the sand begins. Kongorin Els, the Singing Sands, extends 180 kilometers in length and rises to 300 meters at its highest ridge, making it among the largest and tallest dune systems in Asia. The color shifts across the day. White at noon, gold in the late afternoon, deep amber after sunset. The singing is real. When sand moves down the slip face of the dune in sufficient quantity, the synchronized movement of grains at the same frequency produces a low harmonic, 50 to 100 hertz, audible from a kilometer away. Researchers measured and described the acoustic mechanism in studies reportedly published around 2012. The dunes had been producing the sound for 10,000 years before anyone wrote it down. East of the dunes, the desert's surface breaks into canyons of red-orange Cretaceous sandstone. The site is called Bayanzag, rich in Saxol trees, but the Western world knows it by Roy Chapman Andrews' name, the Flaming Cliffs. Andrews arrived here in 1922 as part of an American Museum of Natural History expedition, expecting to find evidence of early human migration from Asia. Instead, he found the first dinosaur eggs ever scientifically documented. Protoceratops, Oviraptor, and Velociraptor fossils emerged from these 80-million-year-old walls. The sandstone glows orange at sunset because of the iron oxide in its composition. The fossils are still here. Paleontologists still work the site each summer. The cliffs are open to the public, and visitors can walk the same ground Andrews walked in 1922. In the Girvan-Saikhan Mountains at the Gobi's southern edge, a narrow canyon holds something the landscape has no business containing: ice. Yolin Am, Eagle Valley, is a gorge whose walls close to 10 meters wide at its narrowest. The canyon floor fills with ice each winter, and because direct sunlight cannot reach it through the slot, the ice persists through summer. In July, at the height of the Gobi's dry season, visitors walk on ice 2 meters deep inside a canyon surrounded by desert. Approximately 500 to 1,000 snow leopards reportedly live in Mongolia's mountain ranges. Yolin Am is one of their territories. Northwest of Eagle Valley, the Gobi's palette shifts again. Tsagan Suvarga, the White Stupa, is a 30-meter sedimentary cliff of calcium carbonate and sandstone, laid down when this entire region was an ancient seafloor. The exposed face covers 400 meters and reveals 60 million years of geological strata in cross-section. Lighter calcium layers alternating with darker sediment, striped in bands that count time in a unit no calendar accommodates. The desert does not perform drama. It simply records it. The bones of something that lived 80 million years ago are still here, still visible at the surface, where anyone who looks can find them. In Mongolia's far north, a lake holds 2% of the world's unfrozen surface freshwater. Lake Kovsgol is 136 kilometers long and 36 kilometers wide, 138 meters deep on average, and sits at 1,645 meters above sea level. Its water is clean enough to drink directly from the surface. It feeds the Yenisei-Baikal river system, which drains eventually into the Arctic Ocean. In winter, the lake freezes to a depth of 1.4 meters. For most of the 20th century, trucks drove across it, a seasonal road connecting northern Mongolia to Russia, the ice firm enough to carry heavy cargo. The surface freezes in November. It holds until May. The lake does not consider this extraordinary. Above the lake's northern shore, the forest changes character. This is the southernmost extension of Siberia's boreal taiga, an ecosystem of larch and pine that begins here and continues uninterrupted to the Arctic Ocean, approximately 5,000 kilometers north. The Mongolian portion reportedly covers around 7.5 million hectares. Winter temperatures drop to -40 Celsius. Snow covers the ground for 4 to 6 months. Inside this forest live approximately 400 people in roughly 40 families. The Tsatan, also called the Duka, are the last nomadic reindeer herders in Mongolia. Their language is Tuvan, a Turkic language related to Turkish, but distinct from Mongolian. They have reportedly lived in this taiga for at least 3,000 years. They use reindeer for transport and milk and leather, but not for meat. They move 5 to 10 times per year following reindeer grazing. West of Kovsgol, at the opposite edge of the country, Mongolia rises to its highest ground. The Mongolian Altai reportedly runs 990 kilometers from northwest to southeast, carrying glaciers that cover approximately 600 square kilometers. The range contains Kwitan Peak at 4,374 meters, Mongolia's highest point. At its western end, the Altai sits at the junction of 3 countries. Mongolia, Russia, and China converge within kilometers of the highest summits. Approximately 100,000 Kazakhs live in Mongolia's Bayan-Olgi province, concentrated in the Altai valleys. Their ancestors migrated here from Kazakhstan in the 19th century, following grazing routes that crossed the mountains before national borders were drawn. They brought their language, their music, and their eagles. Tavan Bogd, the Five Saints, is Mongolia's highest mountain cluster. 5 peaks rise above 4,000 meters, topped by the Potanin Glacier, 18 kilometers long and the largest in the country. The park reportedly covers 630,000 hectares and sits at the convergence of the Mongolian, Russian, and Chinese borders. On a clear day at the summit ridge, all 3 nations are visible at once. Kazakh eagle hunters bring their birds into this park each autumn, following prey routes that have not changed in generations. The hunting season opens in October, when the high-altitude foxes have grown their winter coats. The Tsatan have a word for this, nutag, the home territory. It does not translate cleanly. Nutag is not a fixed place on a map. It is a relationship between a family and the land it moves across. A set of grazing sites, water sources, and weather patterns known over generations and passed down as operational knowledge. The Tsatan do not own their nutag. They inhabit it, repeatedly, in the same way a river inhabits its channel. The taiga does not change on human timescales. The Tsatan have reportedly been here for 3,000 years. The question of who was here first the forest, or the people does not translate either. Every July, for 3 days, Mongolia holds the Nadam Festival, the 3 games of men: wrestling, archery, and horse racing. The 3 sports were reportedly formalized under Genghis Khan in the 13th century, though their origins predate the empire by several hundred years at minimum. The rules have not changed in any meaningful way since. The wrestling begins at Ulaanbaatar's National Sports Palace. Wrestlers wear a traditional jacket, jodag, that is deliberately designed without a front, a historical response to a woman who defeated all male opponents. The redesign ensures no woman could compete disguised. The horse racing is held on the open steppe outside the city. The races cover 15 to 30 kilometers. The jockeys are children aged 5 to 12. They ride without saddles. The winning horse is sung to. The losing horse is cursed, gently, ritually, with a song predicting its future victory. The nomadic camp appears and disappears at the rhythm of the grass. A Mongolian gur has 81 standard components: the lattice walls, the roof poles, the smoke hole, the felt cover, the door frame. Assembly takes 30 to 40 minutes. A family of 4 can manage it without assistance. The components, when disassembled, load onto 2 camels or 1 truck. The design has not changed structurally in 2,000 years. The door faces south in every gur, regardless of the terrain, to optimize winter solar gain. The north side holds the family's altar. The east side belongs to the women of the household. The west side to the men. Guests sit to the south, nearest the door. Approximately 30% of Mongolia's population still moves 4 to 6 times per year following seasonal grazing patterns. In the western province of Bayan-Ogi, a minority culture maintains a practice said to be perhaps 6,000 years old. The Kazakhs of Mongolia's Altai region are berkuchi, eagle hunters. They use female golden eagles, larger and more powerful than males, trained from chicks over 3 to 4 years to hunt foxes and hares on command. The training begins when the eaglet is taken from a high-altitude nest. The hunter carries the bird on his gloved arm for weeks until the eagle stops fearing human proximity. After that, patience. The partnership between a berkuchi and his eagle can last a decade. UNESCO inscribed the practice as intangible cultural heritage in 2016. The Global Golden Eagle Festival, held annually in Bayan-Ogi, draws hunters from across the Mongolian and Kazakh Altai. The deal, the wrap coat worn across all of Mongolia's ethnic groups, appears in records from at least the 11th century. The cut is unchanged. A wrap front robe secured at the chest with a toggle, with wide sleeves that double as gloves in cold weather. Color and fabric vary by region and occasion. Silk for festivals, cotton for summer, lined wool for winter. Mongolia produces approximately 40% of the world's raw cashmere. The best ceremonial deals are made from it. The word dzud has no clean translation into any European language. It describes a compound event: summer drought that prevents animals from storing fat, followed by an ice crust that locks the winter grass beneath an impenetrable surface, starving livestock that cannot dig through to feed. The 2010 dzud killed 8.5 million animals, roughly a fifth of Mongolia's entire national herd. The 2023-24 dzud killed approximately 7 million. Nomadic herders have no insurance against this. The loss of a herd is the loss of a livelihood, a home, and a way of life at the same time. Inside a gur after a dzud winter, the stove still burns. The horse-head fiddle still hangs on the western wall. The fermented mare's milk, irag, still sits in its leather vessel by the door. The felt carpets, red and blue and orange, still cover the floor. The altar at the north still holds its offerings. 30% of this country still moves. The world calls it the past. Mongolia calls it home. The Onon River is still running north, cold and clear, through a province that holds its most important history below the surface. Burkhan Khaldun is still there on the horizon, unmarked and unguarded, the way the Mongols intended. The empire is gone. What the steppe held before the empire, it still holds. The grass, the horse, the silence, the sky that goes all the way to the edge of the possible. Karakorum has returned to the ground it came from. Erdene Zoo still prays inside the stones of what was once the world's capital. The Tsatan still move through the taiga on a schedule determined by reindeer, not by calendars. Mongolia is not a country organized around what was built here. It is organized around what was never destroyed. The relationship between a people and a landscape, so large and so patient that an empire was the smallest thing it ever produced. 8 centuries later, the steppe holds nothing back.